Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Sloan Podcast. This time around, we're going to be talking about the rest of SRB2 again, because we didn't quite cover everything that Sonic Robo Blast 2 has to offer last time. We covered a good chunk of it, but not all of it. This time around, we're going to be talking about the bonus content, the stuff that we would have talked about in Part 2 had we have been able to increase the amount of time that we had or something. And, the file, I wouldn't have to worry about how big the files are in my computer. But, we obviously had to condense it down to 20 minutes because 20 minutes is at least manageable.
Might we remind y'all that the original episode that we recorded was about an hour. So
yeah, for the first part, it was pretty ridiculous. Anyway, that being said, though, we're going to be talking about the bonus content, the things that got scrapped before the final release of 2.2, the things that were considered but never made it into the final game, all sorts of stuff.
It should also be mentioned right off the bat that we're coming out the heels of the release of 2.9, so we're gonna be so this might be a little outdated by the time you listen to this episode, or who knows if you're watching
the first and second part might be a tear outdated by the time of this video 2.2.9 is already out. But parts we were stuck in 2.2.8.
If there was any major issues that has been corrected by then, just know you got to see a relic of the past. We're not sure. We're still pretty concrete on our opinions of every zone in the game so far, but if any problems have been resolved or any new problems have arisen, just know we're probably not going to be super aware of them because 2.2 literally just came out a few days ago at the time of recording this.
Well, 2.2.9 did, but yeah.
Yeah, 2.2.9. Bleh.
Anyway, so the extra zones that we didn't talk about last time. We're gonna start off with Forest Fortress because that's essentially just beta Castle Eggman. So Forest Fortress is pretty good, all things considered. It's a very old zone. It was, one of the original designs for Castle Eggman Zone 1. Despite being made in, I believe, 2015, 16-ish, it's still pretty well designed and holds up relatively well, up to this day. It's not as pretty looking. It's much more gray.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just about as dull and bleak as the final, but you don't really have the colored skies like you did before, like you do in the final game, or like you do at the final revision of Castle Eggman.
Yeah.
This revision of Castle Eggman still retains the gray desaturated skies from 2.1. So yeah, overall, Forest Fortress is a pretty neat zone. It's just a one-act stage that you'll come across once you've collected enough emblems or beaten enough of the bonus stages.
Yeah.
You'll end up with Forest Fortress. Pretty good.
It's not a bad reward for all that hard work, so.
Absolutely not. Especially when you get the ability to compare it to the final revision of Castle Eggman in 2.2.
It's funny you mention that as a nice little segue. Let's talk about Techno Legacy next.
Oh, right, Techno Legacies. Techno Legacies basically sort of like the same thing as Forest Fortress, except it's for Techno Hill, and it's for 2.0 and 109.4. So Techno Legacy is, it's a pretty, well, I wouldn't say that old, but pretty old, all things considered. It was the original design for Techno Hill Zone 2 before we actually ended up in the one that got used in 2.1. The 2.1 revision of Techno Hill Zone Act 2 is the one you see currently. But the old one was used in 2.0, the one in Techno Legacy. That design was actually one of the older revisions of Techno Hill. And I have to say, it's okay. It's more linear, and it's not as fun as the final revision of it, and it doesn't look as cool either. It's much more closed off and everything. It's more blocky and um more and it feels much less like an environment and as well as a stage. You don't
Yeah.
really feel like you're in a factory. You feel like you're just in long corridors with occasional stairs that segue into different paths.
E-
It's not great, but it's not awful. Just it's kind of boring. There's
yeah,
not much to see. The difference between the Techno Legacy and the original Techno Hill Zone Act 2 is the fact that the liquid is green instead of purple. Aside from
which
that, that's pretty much it.
yeah, and it's pretty much eh, compared to Forest Fortress, which does feel like a more refined zone. This was back in 109.4 and 2.0. We gotta give it just a little bit of slack, but honestly speaking, I feel like
And 2.0, but
right. I feel like the emblem requirements for those two stages should be swapped. Forest Fortress seems like a much more rewarding, like a much better reward than Techno Legacy, because yeah, Techno Legacy costs more emblems to unlock. So
yeah, the thing about uh, Forest Fortress is that it's something we never really got to see much of prior to the fact that you get to see it once you unlock it. Like you've only gotten to see screenshots of Forest Fortress. But with Techno Legacy, you got to play it before an older revision, so it doesn't really feel as impactful or interesting.
yeah, so that's why I said
So
it
that's
doesn't
why
really
I think
feel.
Forest Fortress is a better unlockable.
Honestly, yeah, but speaking of unlockables
That's
and
special, yeah.
specials, yes, let's quickly hop, skip, and jump over to the last of the bonus stages that are traditional anyway, Pipe Towers.
Pipe Towers.
Yes, let's go, it's Mario, and it's been around for a long time, if I do recall, because if you didn't already know, Pipe Towers
Yes, Pipe Towers.
is a Mario
Yeah, Pipe
stage.
Towers was known as it was known as a different stage. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but it actually there were it was actually like a set of like three different stages, but they all merged into one and turned into Pipe Towers later on. But during 2.0, you had this thing known as Mario Koopa Blast, which was like a really small level pack embedded to the game itself. And like I said, you actually got to go through the first and second act of this zone. I forgot what it was called originally, but it turned into Pipe Towers later on and became a one act stage. And yeah, it's pretty cool, all things considered.
So much so that
You got like a
actual assets of the game do get changed, and like crawlers turn into goombas. There's the rings turn into coins, and you actually get power ups. Pressing the fire button when you get a fire flower lets you actually be Fire Sonic or Tails or whomever, and I think that's cool. Not a lot of Mario themed homages really do that, and it's a really
they even
nice.
go out of their way to include stuff like sound effects too,
Oh yeah, definitely. And there's also a
and a
special
remix of
the Starman theme,
of
yeah,
yeah, not just the Starman theme, but the actual like underground overworld theme too.
from the original Mario
So
Brothers, yeah.
they went all out sort of with Pipe Towers. They kind of did, but also kind of didn't because like the sprites are sort of upscaled basically, except for maybe like the coins. Or no,
E-
actually no, I think the coins are upscaled. But this might potentially change in 2.3 because I know someone made a mod that remade Pipe Towers, and that might potentially get into 2.3, but we're not sure yet. Anyways, I think that covers all of the bonus unlockable stages. Now we're going to talk about scrapped content and possibly mods once we get there. So, scrapped content. So, first off, I'm going to cover some things that didn't get in. So during 2.2's development, As I've mentioned before, egg. I think Red Volcano was a last-minute zone, if I'm not mistaken, that got in somehow because it just got finished before Castle Eggman Zone 2.
Yeah.
But they were planning on doing Egg Rock for 2.2, but they never got it done in time. We even got to see some screenshots of it too. Heck, it even made a brief appearance in the trailer, the 2018 trailer for 2.2. But that also ultimately got scrapped too, which is unfortunate.
Because
Aside from
if y'all seen the last part of our thing, y'all know how we feel about Egg Rock in 2.1 and 2.2. So
yeah, there were also some conceptual screenshots of what Dark City might look like if it got into the fight, if it was a thing in 2.2. Not only that, we also had gifs of like a singular gif of Grand Egg Ship, which and both of those ones I believe are actually still planned to this day. So they might actually get in. No, actually, I think there's a pretty high probability of them getting in. Now that I think about it, but not only that, if I recall, that wasn't the only thing that was getting in. For those who are unaware, instead of getting Metal Sonic in 2.2, at one point SPO was actually considered to be a playable character instead of Metal Sonic. But last minute SPO was replaced with Metal Sonic, and that was the last we've heard of SPO. It was kind of a shame, honestly. But thankfully, though, we have the SPO mod to compensate for that. But I'll get into that a little later. SPO was planned for a pretty decent amount of time, I think. And then, if I had to guess, they probably replaced him with Metal because of the fact that Metal sprites were already made as a boss, so they figured, screw it, let's just make Metal a playable character, give him spin sprites and stuff, and call it a day. Which is fair, but I also feel like that's a bit lazy. But at the same time, it's whatever. Plus, that would also kind of take Metal's spot away as a playable character, but I'm not complaining too much.
yeah,
Because, again, we got a really good SPO character WAD in the long run, and it's great. Speaking of SPO, that's actually coming out pretty soon. Since he's not on the MB, I think he's actually on the submissions page, on the message board submissions as we speak. Maybe, but yeah, actually no, yeah, he probably is. But he's not the only good character that dropped. But I'm gonna go into a bit more detail with SPO first before I move on to the next character. SPO is a blast to play. I got to beta test him. He's extremely fun. The thing about SPO is that he's gone through a lot of revisions. The first was back in the first version of SPO wasn't very good. He had this move called the slow fall, which is pretty self-explanatory. It's exactly that. He just kind of slowly descends to the ground. But then it changed later on over time, and it eventually it went from a slow fall to the fall switch, which basically, how do I explain the fall switch? The fall switch is essentially a move that flips your momentum vertically. So if, for instance, if you're falling and you use the fall switch, you essentially sort of do this air dash thing. It's like I said, it's based on your vertical momentum. So it's kind of weird. But then that eventually changed into the focus jump, which is a move that's reliant on badniks. Essentially, for that move, you have to destroy a good amount of badniks, and then, which at some point you'll be able to use a more powerful version of SPO's jump, which was pretty cool, and I really liked it during that time. But then they changed it again because there were people that had a really bad tendency to just complain about how it just was too reliant and nobody wanted to go out of their way to destroy badniks just so they can get a stronger jump, or stronger secondary jump.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where the charge jump comes in, which is still a really good move. It's kind of like the focus jump, but you sort of charge in midair along with, the return of the slow fall. You only have the slow fall only shows up when you're in the middle of your charge. But after you finish charging your charge jump, you'll get out of the slow fall and you'll actually shoot up in the air. Not only that, SPO also has his signature wall cling and ceiling cling now. So that's cool. SPO's all the abilities flow extremely well on each other, and he's extremely fun to play as. I highly recommend playing as SPO once he drops, which is very soon. Anyways, moving on from SPO.
Let's go ahead
surprisingly,
I feel like
yeah.
I want to say my piece on a character that I feel is unlike any other. SMS Reborn.
Oh, good choice.
SMS, if you didn't already know, has had a long storied history, which, if you want to figure that out, you can go watch Golden Shine's video on it, which is actually the dude who made it. Super talented modder, by the way. Lua coder, I should say.
Extremely, highly talented.
Yeah, and
that's not an exaggeration.
No, it isn't. He's
absolutely phenomenal at what he does.
He also made Samus.
Samus.
Yeah, so the dude is good. But back to SMS in particular, the whole idea behind the dude is that he was supposed to be what Sonic was like, during all the cutscenes. So, like, you see him going at supersonic speeds, going fast, and he just never got to have that kind of speed or that kind of power in the games. But, like, hey, that was what SMS planned to do. It was a new form for Sonic. It gave incredible speed, a lot of brand new abilities like an air boost, a wall jump, a homing attack, all these awesome stuff.
Oh my god, yeah.
The amount of stuff that you can do with SMS is truly unlike any other character in this game. It takes a lot of work to master, but whenever you get that perfect run, there's not a feeling like it.
Yeah, SMS, as Burner said, SMS has quite a few abilities under his belt, and when I mean quite a few, that's not an exaggeration. When I mean quite a few, I mean literally millions of different moves within his arsenal. But I don't mean literally, but that's an exaggeration. But he has tons, and it's unreal as to what he can do. He is no joke, and it sometimes feels as though he's unstoppable. It's madness. But
it's someone
who's
someone who's good with SMS is someone who understands his strengths and weaknesses. He's great at going really fast and doing all these awesome tricks, but his main weakness is that he's really hard to control. And I wouldn't recommend it for newcomers.
And that's a result of him being extremely fast. He's really hard to control because of how fast he moves. There's a potential chance that you could fall into a bottomless pit as a result of your carelessness if you don't pay attention to where you're going or how you're traversing through the stage. Because as Burner said before, SMS is essentially meant to be representative of how Sonic is portrayed in cutscenes and all types of different media. He's essentially media Sonic, for lack of a better term, and that's what makes SMS so great. Shine was essentially able to take Sonic's moves from all different types of media and incorporate it into SMS, which is what makes him so good. And not only that, he's got an incredible form too, and a super form that's just mind-blowing. May I introduce you to Hyper Mystic Sonic? Literally has as I was told by Shine himself, HMS is how do I describe his power level? It's quite literally infinite, as in never ending. HMS HMS is a result of SMS Sonic tapping into the Mystic Emerald's power completely, and not just like a sliver of it. SMS is only a result of tapping into a sliver of the Mystic Emerald's energy, but Hyper Mystic Sonic is a result of tapping all of the Mystic Emerald's energy completely.
This dude
It's
literally
essentially a wish form.
This dude literally went all the way past Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Blue, and past Ultra
Yeah,
Instinct to become
because again,
HMS.
he's a literal god. I'm not even joking. And there is a trade-off, a huge trade-off for this transformation, though, a very deadly one. The thing about this form is that when Sonic transforms into it, there is a high risk of Sonic potentially dying if he transforms into Hyper Mystic Sonic. And I'm not joking. That's how much of a risk Sonic's at when performing this transformation. If he doesn't perform it correctly, he's dead.
Yes,
So
there's lore, and there's a bit of lore for you kiddos, and that's kind of why I love SMS so much as a whole. Like, he feels like the ultimate package here. Like, it isn't just a really cheap OC that's just super overpowered. No, it's a character that has a lot of care and love put into him. So many moves, so many abilities, an awesome super form. What more could you want, y'all? Come on, really.
exactly. Because again, Shine just did whatever he wanted, and bam, this is what we got. Because Shine was passionate about what he did, and Shine made sure that nothing was gonna, get in the way from him doing that, of him just doing that, and he did it.
Yep.
And another fun fact, this might be not the best topic, but I figure since it's all over with, I might as well bring it up anyway. Shine had some problems with SMS. He's gone through drama with one of the devs over the years. I think 14 years approximately, 14 to 16, somewhere around there. So about like a decade and a quarter, or a decade and a half, something like that. And he had to put up with Mystic and Rob giving him flack because of the fact that SMS was a recolor, and they didn't like that, and they made sure. I remember I was there. I took notice to this. I wasn't exactly in the server, but I remember, if I recall, I remember some drama happening in the Discord. The official server. No, either community or official. I think it was either or. No, actually, no, community. But I remember seeing drama take place in there, and they just gave Shine tons of flack because of SMS, and it was kind of depressing.
But
because it was kind of depressing because it seems as though all hope was lost for SMS for a little while. But despite this, Shine managed to get SMS onto the message board, and he is awesome.
yeah,
And
a classic.
they made sure to not get SMS on the message board. I saw they just immediately jumped Shine as soon as he made that video about SMS, and I feel bad for him, honestly. But anyways, aside from that,
SMS
let's
in
move
general is just an underdog story, and I really, really like it. But unfortunately, we are running a little short on time here. But all in all, I feel like there's a lot to go over, because we could keep talking about all the awesome characters that 2.2 has to offer you. Shadow. There's Meta Knight. There's Bean the Dynamite that just
Bean.
released.
Yes, with bombs and stuff that you can use to go up walls and just traverse through the stage like the soldier from TF2. It's insane.
And not just that, but there's more coming out. There's stuff that's planned. There's stuff that
they're planning on doing the entirety of the classic and modern cast. I'm not even joking.
There's
if
if we haven't if all that we said about SRB2 during this whole mega marathon about this game, revisiting it for old time's sake, hasn't had enough to sway you, then surely something in the future will definitely bring you over to interest. Honestly speaking,
Yes.
SRB2 is a game that means a lot to both me and Mirage, and I'm sure a lot of other people
Yeah.
too. And it was a lot of fun revisiting this game
And
again,
not even
talking
that,
about
they
it.
also have like an SRB2 cart too. There's
And
that.
and there's also like a bunch of other game modes too, like SRB2 Ware, which is just WarioWare, but like, in SRB2. And there's also a full-fledged Tartarus exploration mode with SRB2 Persona. Yo,
Yep.
that's my thing. I really like Persona. If you didn't already know, that's up my alley. There's so much to enjoy and so much to experience, and we want
There's
SRB
tons of variety everywhere you look.
SRB2. This game has bred so much love and creativity out of the Sonic community, and that's why I'm very much in favor of saying this is my favorite fan game of all time.
And I don't blame you.
It's great.
But yeah.
We've rambled
Yeah,
on
it
for
is.
long enough, haven't we? But yeah, we hope that you have enjoyed this long marathon of us going through this game again. We hope you enjoyed. But yeah, thank you all for watching this episode of the Saloon Podcast. Until the next one,
Tuning in.
we'll catch
Yep.
you then. Bye
See ya.
bye.